Imagine this. You walk into a cozy British pub, right? It's buzzing, glasses are clinking, and you're ready. You want your favorite cocktail, maybe an amaretto sour, that sweet almondy citrus thing, or maybe a bright green Midori sour. So you go up to the bar feeling confident, you ask for it, and uh-oh, blank stares. Or maybe worse, a really polite but very definite, sorry, we don't really do those here. Or perhaps it's simply you just ask for a lemonade and you end up with something. Well, completely different from what you expected back home. Sounds almost like a scene from a comedy, doesn't it? But it's actually a real situation that lots of English learners run into. So what went wrong there? And more importantly, how can you avoid those slightly awkward moments and make sure you get the drink you actually want? Welcome to Daily English Practice Listen and Speak. Today, we're embarking on a really interesting deep dive into English for ordering drinks. Our mission today is basically to give you the phrases, the confidence, and crucially, the understanding you need to order drinks smoothly.
Whether you're in a quick coffee shop or navigating, the social world of a traditional British pub, because it's not just about what words to say, is it? It's also about how you say them and picking up on those subtle cultural differences. Okay, let's unpack this then. Our sources have given us some really fascinating insights. It turns out there's so much more to ordering a drink than just like pointing at a menu or knowing the word for beer. There's this whole hidden layer of rules and expectations.
It's absolutely true. And what's fascinating, I think, is how much the context, like what kind of place you're in, the country, even the time of day, how much that can completely change things. Not just what you should order, maybe, but definitely how you should order it. So yeah, this deep dive should really help you navigate those unspoken rules, understand the little cues, and hopefully walk away with exactly the drink you were picturing without any surprising results.
Right. Before we even get to the drinks themselves, let's lay the groundwork. Let's talk about just basic politeness when you're asking for anything, really. Our research flagged some super useful phrases. They might seem basic, but the little differences between them are kind of key to sounding natural and, well, respectful.
That's such a great point. Politeness in English isn't just one thing. It's got layers. So if you're asking, what's the most polite, most effective way? Well, if you want to be universally safe, maybe in a nicer restaurant or a hotel bar or something like that. May I have is your absolute gold standard.
May I have, right? So like, may I have a glass of water, please? Sounds quite formal, but safe.
Exactly. Impeccably polite. Then, maybe a small step down in formality, but still really versatile, super common, are phrases like, I'd like, or I would like.
Ah, okay. I'd like a coffee, please.
Perfect. It's neutral, it's confident, it works almost anywhere. You're just stating what you want, basically.
Makes sense.
Then you've got could I have or could I get. These are probably, well, maybe the most common ones you'll hear day to day. Using could just softens the request a tiny bit compared to can.
So it feels a bit more approachable. Like, could I get a latte, please?
Spot on. Very approachable. And then slightly more casual again, but still absolutely fine, especially when things are busy, maybe a bit faster paced. Can I have and can I get? You hear these all the time. Perfectly normal.
Okay. Got it. And what about when you've actually looked at the menu, maybe in a restaurant or a pub where you sit down first?
Ah, right. Once you've decided, yeah, then it's very natural to use things like I'll have, I'll take, or I'll get. It signals, my decision is made.
Like, okay, I've looked, I'll have the ginger ale, please.
Exactly. And even more relaxed, quite conversational, especially in pubs or casual spots, you might hear, I'll go with, or let's go with.
I think I'll go with a local ale. Something like that.
Precisely. It's very natural. But, and this is crucial, no matter which phrase you choose.
Please and thank you.
Yes, cannot stress that enough. Adding please to your request always helps. It's almost just expected. And when you get your drink, a clear thank you. These little words, they're like magic keys, honestly. They smooth everything over, no matter how casual the place is.
Definitely. Now, what about the flip side? Phrases to maybe steer clear of.
Our sources mentioned gimme or give me.
Oh, yeah. That's very casual. Bordering on demanding, really. You'd only use that with people you know really, really well.
Yeah.
Close friends, family, maybe.
Right. Walking into a random cafe and saying, gimme a coffee. It would sound pretty abrupt, wouldn't it?
Abrupt is a good word.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe even rude. Like you're barking an order, not making a polite request. Definitely not the vibe you want to give off. Okay, good heads up. So, armed with our politeness toolkit, let's zoom in. Where are we using these phrases? Let's start with maybe the most common daily ritual for loads of people, the coffee shop. The bustling city cafe, your local neighborhood spot. Ordering coffee has its own whole language, almost. And this is where it gets really interesting because just saying coffee can mean so many different things.
Oh, absolutely. If you think about it, coffee culture is huge and incredibly varied across the English-speaking world and even within countries. So understanding the common terms for the drinks, the additions, the sizes, it's key to actually getting the drink you want. Otherwise, asking for a coffee could get you anything from a black filter coffee to a tiny espresso.
And one of the biggest areas for choice is milk, right? You definitely need the vocabulary there. Our research highlighted the usual suspects. Whole milk, that's full fat.
Right, or 2% milk for low fat.
Skinny, or skim for non-fat.
And then the alternatives like soy milk, almond milk, oat milk is huge now too.
Oh yeah, oat milk. And
Yeah.
the flavor syrups. Vanilla, hazelnut, mocha, which is chocolate, basically. Knowing those makes a huge difference.
Definitely. And then there are the sizes. This can be confusing because they often have those specific names, you know. What you might think of as small could be called tall,
Medium is often grand.
and large is venti. These names, yeah, they came from big chains, but lots of places use them or understand them now.
Good to know.
And you might also get asked about espresso shots. 1 shot, 2 shots, maybe even 3 shots if you need a serious kick.
It really shows why you have to be specific. One of our sources shared this funny story. Well, maybe not funny at the time. Someone asked for a small latte on a really hot day, like 90 degrees, and they got a steaming hot one because they didn't say iced.
The crucial ice. Easy mistake to make if you're not used to having to specify.
Exactly. So be ready for those key questions at the counter, like what size or what kind of milk would you like or just anything else for you today. Having your answers ready just makes it all go so much smoother.
Gets you your caffeine fix faster, too.
Precisely. Okay, let's switch gears. Let's talk about a place that's just quintessentially British. The pub, often called the neighborhood's living room. It's a real community hub, but it definitely has its own set of unwritten rules, especially if you're coming from somewhere with a different bar culture.
That's such a critical point. Pubs aren't just bars like you might find elsewhere. They have this deep history as community centers, places people gather, and that history explains a lot about the etiquette.
Like ordering at the bar.
Exactly. That whole thing about going up to the bar yourself. It's part of that communal feel. It's not really about being waited on hand and foot like in some restaurants. It's about joining the crowd at the bar, having a quick chat maybe. It's part of the social fabric.
Which leads us straight to rule number 1 for ordering drinks in a British pub.
Yeah.
You have to go to the bar. Our research was crystal clear on this. If you just sit down at a table and wait.
You'll be waiting a long time.
Yeah, you'll probably get pretty thirsty. Pubs generally don't do table service just for drinks. You find your spot, maybe leave a coat, then head to the bar when you're ready.
Absolutely. Now, what to order? Well, when in Rome or, Britain, look around, see what others are drinking, especially the locals, or just ask the bartender. You'll often see people drinking local ales or cider, maybe even perry. That's pear cider, quite popular in some areas.
And it's important to know that beer is a really broad term, isn't it?
Hugely broad. It covers lagers, ales, bitters, stouts, IPAs, wheat beers, everything. So if you just ask for a beer, you might get anything. It's much better to be a bit more specific, like a pint of lager, please. Or ask for advice like, what local ales do you have on tap?
And is it true you can ask for a little taste first?
Oh, definitely. Especially with ales on tap. It's perfectly acceptable to ask for a small taster before you commit to a whole pint. They're usually happy to oblige. Don't be shy.
That's great advice. And what if you don't want alcohol? Is that okay in a pub?
Totally fine. Our sources confirmed. Ordering a coffee, a tea, a soda, absolutely normal. Nobody will bat an eyelid, as they say. It's more about being there, soaking up the atmosphere, being social.
Good to know. Let's talk measurements. It's usually pints, right?
Yep, the standard is a pint, which is just over half a liter. It can seem like quite a lot if you're not used to it.
Can you get smaller?
Absolutely. You can always ask for a half, meaning a half pint. Totally normal request if a full pint feels like too much.
And sometimes you see signs outside saying free house. What's that about? Does it mean free drinks?
If only. No, free house means the pub isn't owned by or tied to one specific brewery.
Oh.
So they're free to sell beers and ales from lots of different breweries, which usually means a wider, more interesting selection for you to choose from. Often a good sign if you like variety.
Right, makes sense. What about tipping? Different from restaurants.
Very different, usually. For just getting drinks at the bar, you're generally not expected to tip the bartender. However, a really nice traditional gesture, especially if you're buying drinks for a group, is to say, and one for yourself.
Meaning buy the bartender a drink.
Exactly. It's an offer for them to have a drink on you, either then or later. It's seen as a very appreciative gesture. But yeah, quite different from the standard 10–15% service charge or tip you might leave for table service in a restaurant.
Okay. One last pub phrase, last call.
Ah, yes, the famous last call. Or sometimes last orders. That's the signal the bar is closing soon, usually around 11 p.m., though times can vary. It's your final chance to get a drink in before they shut up shop. You need to be quick.
Good to know.
Yeah.
Okay, now, let's circle back to that controversial hook from the beginning. Our sources really highlighted this common cultural clash, trying to order complex cocktails in your average British pub. This is where expectations can really go wrong.
Yeah, this is a big one. If you think about the bigger picture, bartending rules can differ. In many typical British pubs, the staff are brilliant at pulling pints perfectly, managing multiple beer taps, and quickly making simple mixed drinks. But they often aren't trained mixologists in the way staff at a dedicated cocktail bar would be.
So asking for that amaretto sour or Midori sour.
Exactly. Traditional pubs often just don't have the specific ingredients needed, things like fresh sour mix, specific liqueurs, maybe the right kind of ice or garnishes. And crucially, the staff might not have the training or even the time, especially when it's busy, to make complex multi-step cocktails like an old-fashioned or even a Bloody Mary. Their focus is usually on beer, wine, and simple spirit plus mixer drinks.
Like a gin and tonic, rum and coke.
Precisely. Whiskey and soda. Quick, easy, popular.
And this is where the etiquette comes in. Our research was pretty clear. Ordering a complicated custom cocktail, especially when the pub is packed, it's generally seen as bad form.
It really is. It just holds everything up. The staff might not know how to make it, they might not have the stuff, and everyone else waiting for a simple pint gets delayed.
One source even told this story about someone ordering an amaretto sour
Yeah.
and literally being handed a glass with amaretto liqueur and like a plastic squeezy bottle of lemon juice from the kitchen.
Oh, dear. Yeah, that sounds about right for a place that's just not set up for cocktails. A real mismatch of expectations.
So if a pub does do cocktails,
Then they'll almost certainly have a specific separate cocktail menu. Often these might feature pre-mixed options or very simple, easy-to-make drinks that they can do efficiently. So, rule 1. Always look for a cocktail menu first. If there isn't one, stick to the basics.
and this brings us back to the lemonade confusion too, right?
Yeah.
Because that affects mixed drinks.
Massively. This trips up so many visitors. In the UK, lemonade is clear, fizzy, and sweet. Think Sprite or 7UP. It is not the cloudy, still tart drink common in the US.
Which in the UK you'd have to specifically ask for as.
Cloudy lemonade. Yeah, so if you order, say, a vodka lemonade, expecting the American kind, you'll get vodka and Sprite, which is a totally different drink.
Okay, so what can you usually order in a pub that's maybe a bit more interesting than just a pint or a G&T,
Yeah.
but still appropriate?
Good question. Our sources suggested some reliable options. There's the Baby Guinness. That's a shot. Looks like a tiny stout, usually coffee liqueur topped with Irish cream. Fun and easy.
Thim's and lemonade in the
The
South.
classic. Pim's number 1, which is a gin-based fruit cup mixed with that fizzy UK lemonade. Lots of fruit, mint. Very refreshing, very British summer. Ciders are always a safe bet, including fruit ciders, which are really popular.
And in winter.
Mulled wine or mulled cider. Warm, spice, lovely when it's cold out. And actually, Aperol Spritz, even though it's Italian, has become surprisingly common in many pubs now, too. Simple enough to make.
So the takeaway is, keep it relatively simple in a traditional pub unless there's a clear cocktail menu.
Pretty much. If you really want that expertly crafted Martinez or a perfect Mai Tai, you need to find a proper cocktail bar, or maybe an upmarket hotel bar. That's where you'll find the trained mixologists and the full range of ingredients. You'll have a much better experience there for those kinds of drinks.
Right, choose your venue wisely. Okay, fast forward. You've had your drinks, great conversation, now it's time to pay. How do you politely signal you're ready for the bill? Another moment where politeness and local customs are key.
Absolutely. And this raises that interesting little point. Why do we usually say the bill and not a bill? And what's the best way to ask without sounding like you're demanding it?
So in the UK, the go-to phrase is,
Could I have the bill, please? That's probably the most common reply. Can I have the bill, please? It's also perfectly fine, just slightly more casual.
and it's the bill, because it's our specific bill, right? Not just any random one.
Exactly. You're referring to your specific tab, the check for your particular order. Now, in the US, you're more likely to hear, check. Could I have the check, please? But bill is totally understood there, too.
The key thing, though, regardless of term, is avoiding demands. Yeah, like, bring us the bill.
Definitely. especially without a please. It can sound quite abrupt. Even a simple "bill please," while often understood, feels much smoother if you frame it as a request. Could we get the bill whenever you have a moment?
Tone of voice matters too, I guess.
Hugely. A polite tone can make even a very short phrase sound fine. And don't forget gestures. Catching the server's eye and doing that little air signature, miming, signing a piece of paper, universally understood signal for "bill, please." Very useful if it's noisy or they're busy.
That's a good tip. And often the server gives you an opening, right? They might come over and ask, anything else for you?
Perfect cue. You just reply, "No thanks, just the bill, please." Simple. Or if you want to be really low-key and polite about it, you could say something like, "No rush, but we're ready for the bill whenever you are." It signals you're done, but puts no pressure on them.
Great options. Okay, so we've covered a lot. Politeness, coffee shops, the whole world of the British pub, cocktails, paying the bill. What does this all mean for you, our listener, trying to put it into practice? How do you actually build that confidence?
That really is the million-dollar question, isn't it? Because language learning is a journey. All these insights are great, but it takes practice, real-world application, and honestly, not being afraid to mess up sometimes. Mistakes are totally natural, actually a really valuable part of learning. Our deep dive into the sources actually gave us a bunch of practical tips you can start using right away.
Like practicing with a friend. That seems like a good first step.
Ah.
You can role-play scenarios, ordering in a busy cafe, trying to get served in a crowded pub. One person is the customer, one is the server, then swap.
Definitely. Or using language learning apps, or finding a language exchange partner online. Someone learning your language who can practice English with you. You get real-time feedback that way, which is so helpful.
And if you have the chance, actually going to English-speaking places, right?
Yeah.
Even if you start super simple. A coffee, please. A pint of lager, please. Then build up. Maybe try asking for that taster at the pub next time.
Exactly. Low-stakes interactions to build confidence. Online forums or language groups can also be good for practicing conversational bits in a supportive space before you try it live.
I really like the tip about watching English TV shows and movies. Pay really close attention when characters order drinks. What words do they use? How do they sound? What's their body language? Try mimicking them.
Yeah, immersion helps so much. And maybe even record yourself saying some of the key phrases. Hearing yourself back can really help pinpoint pronunciation things you want to work on. Flashcards for tricky bits like cloudy lemonade versus lemonade, or the names of specific drinks can be useful too.
And I guess the biggest thing is just embracing the mistakes when they happen.
Absolutely. Don't see them as failures. See them as learning opportunities. Every single time you order a drink, have a conversation, it's a chance to improve, notice something new, understand a little bit more about the culture as well as the language. If you keep applying these phrases, these tips, consistently, your confidence and fluency will grow. Ordering drinks will become just a normal, maybe even enjoyable part of the experience. So here's something to think about. The next time you find yourself in an English-speaking country, ready to order a drink, remember, it's not just about getting something to drink. It's actually a chance to engage in a small but unique cultural interaction. Now that you know a bit more about what to look for, what unexpected little detail might you notice in that exchange next time?
That's a great thought. We really hope this deep dive helps you feel more prepared, maybe even a little excited, for your next English-speaking adventure, whether you find yourself in a cafe, a fancy cocktail bar, or, yes, even a traditional British pub. Keep practicing, stay curious, and really enjoy the journey of discovery. Until next time.